Beauty of the poop scooping business is even more so than lawn mowing. Everybody says, oh, go mow yards, and that's great, that's my history. But poop scooping is even better because you can start poop scooping for less than $100. What is most common in the industry is charging more for multiple dogs.
Okay.
We have never charged more. We've charged the same price for 1 to 4 dogs.
Hey, I'm here with my friend EJ McCoy. We've known each other for a really long time. He's my number one competitor in the city turf business. And a topic that I want to talk about that he's an expert on is how do you start a poop scooping business? And there's 2 reasons why I like it. One, getting to know EJ over the years, these businesses actually make a lot of money, a surprising amount of money. I would have never guessed they're as profitable as they are. And number 2, the point there being, I believe there's an opportunity for many to start this business, but there's also an opportunity, I believe, for a lot of companies to tack it onto a business they already have. So I thought you'd be the perfect guy to talk to about this. And so my objective here is, let's talk about how you start one of these businesses. But first, who are you?
You just did a good introduction. I'm your number one competitor.
You are my number one competitor.
No,
and when we first met, you were like, really small.
Really
your
small.
Thing is
so
just
yeah,
gone.
we met in 2011. Actually, I remember
Okay.
because you have had such an impact in my life since then, as you well know, and I've told you that. But you've had such an impact. But that was 2011, and yeah, we were doing $300,000 or $400,000 a year mowing yards. And City Turf had been around. You were already well known. But we were looking for a CRM and found Service Autopilot.
Right.
You were building Service Autopilot, discovered Lawn Care Millionaire in your old channel.
Yep.
And yeah, I've made it a point to buy you a meal every chance you have ever let me, and thank you for being gracious in that. But yeah, so we built a mowing business in Chorby.com that's a competitor, and like you just said, I think that inside of Collin County,
yeah,
I don't think there's another competitor, definitely not your size, but I don't think there's another one in the residential space that's even our size. So we're probably the top 2.
That's what I've theorized.
I theorize as well that we're probably the top 2 residential mowing businesses and FERT businesses. FERT, obviously, you have True Green and some other competitors, but in the mowing space in Collin County. And yes, I was just talking to you and busting your chops a little bit about how I can't even go to my local Starbucks without seeing the City Turf trucks. But I love it.
Which makes me happy.
I know, it warms your heart and it just
Maybe one day
drives
you'll give up.
me.
You'll just give up on it all because those yellow trucks are dominating you.
I gave you every opportunity to let me give up, and you were, of course, so gracious and were like, no, you wanted me to be a competitor. But yeah, if you remember back in the day, I was real frustrated with my business.
Yeah.
And I would have probably been able to be manipulated out of the industry, and you could have done that, and you didn't. And so grateful for that.
No,
but
you guys have done good.
And yes, and about that same time, we were building and had started a poop scooping business in 2011. In fact, that's why we needed a CRM, was for this new poop business. And so you've watched this business grow poop scooping from 2011, 0 to...
What are you in, 20 states?
We'll surpass $15 million this year.
What about states?
And I always get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 28 markets in 16 states.
Okay.
I feel like I should know that number better than I do, but...
It's like asking me how many team members we have.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It changes constantly.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't deal with that. Cool. So you're an expert on this. The thing I want to talk about is how do we build this business? So if I have nothing. I'm starting from ground zero, and I want to build poop scooping business. First of all, maybe a good place to start is what would it cost me to do this?
Yeah, so it could cost you a little. So if you are sitting, Jeremy Langlitz just joked about this, that I started these businesses sleeping on his couch. There's
Who's
a little
Jeremy?
bit of truth. Jeremy Langlitz is one of my best friends. He's our Vice President of Business Administration. And has worked with me now for 8 years in all of our companies, and is about to finish his accounting degree. He's been going to school at night to really function as our future main accountant. I digress. He jokes that I started the businesses sleeping on his couch. There's an element of truth to that. In other words, I had no money. And in the beauty of the poop scooping business is even more so than lawn mowing. Everybody says, oh, go mow yards, and that's great, that's my history. But poop scooping is even better because you can start poop scooping for less than $100 if you had to.
If you own a car.
If you own a car. if you have something to drive to
or a bicycle.
Somebody's house, maybe even a bicycle, you're right. And in some markets, we're laughing about that. That is theoretically also possible.
Well, one of my son's buddies started a poop scooping business, and like early high school, and we didn't have a car.
Exactly. And I started mowing yards in that same way, walking to houses. So you're right, you don't even need a car in a lot of cases. But let's say you've got a car and you're 21 years old and you have no money though. You need less than $75 and a trip to Home Depot.
Okay.
And in theory, you're in business.
So what am I buying?
You're buying a commercial grade dustpan, or what I would call a commercial grade dustpan. You're buying a leaf rake, a small, narrow leaf rake, not a big rake, a small rake that's under $10. I think even with inflation, I haven't looked lately, but I think it's still under $10. And that dustpan is under 40. Again, I haven't looked lately. I'm kind of factoring in some inflation to that. So for $50, you've got your rake and your dustpan, and all you need now is a box of trash bags.
Yep.
It's just standard, I don't know what size, 15-gallon trash bags that line your bucket. We even, years later, we tried to innovate. We've innovated in a lot of ways, but we tried to innovate by getting custom or looking at custom trash. But we realized there's no innovation here. They already naturally fit into the bucket. Just an off-the-shelf trash bag. You're in business.
Are you leaving the bags behind in their trash can?
If you have a Toyota Corolla or a Miata, you probably are going to need to leave the trash on the property somewhere in their trash can. I would say in the industry, with the industry right now, I think that you have both happening.
Okay.
You have a lot of people in the older companies that have been around. We haul it away.
Okay.
So you have to have a truck in most cases for that, because believe it or not, even a day's worth of poop adds up to hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Really?
It does. It can.
Wow.
It can,
okay.
Especially if you've got first-time scoops involved in that,
Okay.
and the first-time scoop could be hundreds of pounds by itself, depending on when the last time it was done. But
Hundreds of pounds?
Oh yeah.
I guess my bulldog is.
Oh yeah.
Not
bulldog.
You have
your
Great
Bulldogs,
Danes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, imagine if you've got a quarter-acre lot and nobody's scooped, and you've got 2 Great Danes, and you've got a bulldog, and nothing's happened for a year.
I see.
Oh yeah, there's some stories.
Wow,
We've got
I
some
can't
stories.
even imagine. Okay.
We've got some stories.
Okay.
But, we digress.
Yeah.
We digress.
So, all right. So we've established what you need. The debate is: do you leave it behind? Do you haul
And
it
again,
away?
if we're talking budgeting,
what's the customer say? Who cares what you guys think? What's the customer want?
And again, the customer, and our mission statement is we take the stink out of pet ownership.
Okay.
So we will always
the
haul it
ideal
away.
is you haul it away.
We haul it away. Well, of course, the customer would much prefer that. That being said, a big part of the industry, as people as the industry is gaining more traction, there is an element of the industry that does not haul it away, and there's some big businesses that do not haul it away, and there's a lot of cost savings in not hauling it away. You can have literally smart cars, like the smallest possible thing to go out to a stop. So there are benefits to it, and I don't have a strong opinion. I think it's in each person's business.
But if you didn't haul it away, would you get complaints from the client?
Oh, my clients would complain for sure.
How, like
and I
what
think it's
percent?
a unique selling
1%, 5%, 10?
Oh, geez, I don't know. And at this point, because we're so ingrained in what we do, and again, our mission statement is we take the stink out of pet ownership, would be a little bit hypocritical if we weren't taking it away.
Yeah.
But
if somebody were starting,
I don't think it's a major issue.
Like under 2% complaint rate?
Maybe even less.
Oh, then it doesn't matter, because you could just...
Here's why I say that. Because you're not necessarily taking customers of mine. My customers probably, some of them maybe want to save a few bucks, and maybe you do take a few of them. But by and large, you're bringing new people into the industry. And so those people are for the first time being introduced. And so you can kind of dictate, okay, we're going to require a credit card and we're going to bill you the day after service, which you taught me and made me rich in a lot of ways. That one thing is like, the thing is a huge game changer for anybody, a little note. But you make it, you're dictating to the customer, because they don't know that it's not like they've had a mowing service for 10 years and you're just the next mowing service.
You're setting the rules.
You're setting the rules.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's by and large, but you're going to get clients that if you're not hauling it away, you're going to miss out.
Okay.
And I'm saying 2%. I don't know how many really, because we've never really.
I just want to know if it's meaningful. A lot of times we make decisions because we answer the phone and we hear a few phone calls where people are complaining, and so we imagine that everybody's upset when in reality it's this tiny little number, and then we make business decisions around that. So if I'm creating the ideal business for myself, I just want to know how big is that problem, because I'm willing to forego maybe 2% of my clients to have the 2% the 98% that let me leave it behind. That's where the question's coming from.
And you're exactly right. It's very possible, because it's so many new clients. They're never going to, if you take good care of them, they're never going to know the difference. It does lend itself to other problems though. What do you do when you have 100 pounds of poop at a first time scoop? You got to haul that off. So there's still things you got to ask. But circling all the way back to how you start.
Yeah.
You can start for under $100.
Okay. So along
with
those
the
lines.
Materials.
Okay. So materials. I can't really acquire clients for under $100 unless
I think you can.
door knocking, I'm
unless
guessing?
you work. If you work. So I personally, we grew through advertising to our 300 mowing clients in 2011. That's kind of the first. We
So
got our
perfect
first two
example
customers
of
from
this
that.
tack-on idea. Like you've got a business, you tack this
Yes.
service on.
And we separated the businesses, and I do think there's value in that, in this separation. I also think there's challenges in that, especially if you're a small mowing business. It splits your focus, so it can cause you issues if you separate it as a brand. But I also think there's value in it, separating it as a brand. I think it's beneficial for some, not for all.
When you say, is that because you believe that by separating it, you establish the other businesses more authority with the other business because they see you as an expert at that one thing? Is that the logic?
It's the whole concept, and you and I have talked at length about this. If you've got a business that is specialized in one area, you tend to grow faster, and I've personally experienced that.
We have too.
Well, you go back to the
we've
book.
never separated them, but we believe that to be
But you
true.
go back to the book Good to Great,
Yeah.
classic book. So many people, Jim Collins. I have 3 brands. Executive Lawn Care focuses on lawn mowing, shrub trimming, and mulch. Literally, that's it. It grew like crazy from 2016 to 20, and I strongly believe that was because it was so focused. Scoop Soldiers did the same. It only scoops poop, and it does 1 or 2 other services like deodorizer and sanitizer around poop scooping. That's it. It grew fast. It was simple. You don't have a lot of stuff on the truck, that sort of thing. You look at what we did with Chorby. Lawn mowing, plumbing, landscaping, irrigation, everything I could freaking think of. I'm like an ADD maniac. I'm giving the middle finger to Good to Great. That business has been a challenge, a huge challenge. The amount
And
of
expensive to
resources
build.
the cost that it sucks out in all of these other focuses. It's so distracting. It's got so many challenges. Now, I believe in it in a lot of ways, but it's also, we're in the process of pulling back a bit in that area. So, yeah, I think there's benefit to solely being focused on poop scooping. I think there's a benefit to that. Not to say it couldn't work by being an add-on to somebody's landscaping business. It absolutely could. Now, I'm biased in that, and I want to do this little quick plug. The other possibility is you franchise it.
Sure.
So it costs less than $100 if you want to just, but you don't exactly know what you're doing, especially if you've never been in any other kind of home service business. Now, if you're in the lawn and landscaping business or you run a mowing business of some sort, man, this is an easy segue. Whether you do it inside of your existing lawn and landscape business or whether you separate it like we did.
We've talked about this before. I think of it with what you're doing as very comparable to Christmas lights. There's a lot of, you tack on Christmas lights to these mowing businesses, these irrigation businesses. People buy franchises for Christmas lights. It's the same thing. I think it's opportunity for you guys.
And so that's the franchising side. Yeah, you can spend to get into a franchise, it's $60,000 to $110,000 to start a franchise. Now, you've got a way higher level of success in that. You've got 15 years and $50 million worth of revenue. $60 million worth of revenue that we've generated, and there's a lot of experience in that. And so you've got a much higher chance of success. There's a lot of marketing spent in that. But you can, circling back, you can spend as little as $100, and you don't have to spend any money on marketing. You make a list of all the dog owners you know and the zip codes you're looking to service. You start calling them. You start literally hounding them. How good using all the friend capital you've got with them. But then you also literally and figuratively start knocking on doors, getting on the social media groups. You do not have to spend money on marketing for poop scooping. You just don't, or for really anything in the home services space.
So something we've talked about at City Turf at one point, I had ran the data in a spreadsheet years back and thought, man, wouldn't it be magical if I could just have the guys mowing the lawn pick up poop?
Yeah.
Like because a lot of the money is in the stop, getting there, the drive time, the stop cost. And so it'd just be wildly profitable because I've already rolled the truck, I got the truck there, I got the guys there. And our analysis, we never tested it. Our analysis, maybe talking to the team members or just thinking through it, was they were not going for this.
Yeah.
And it's already hard enough to recruit team members. Talk to you about it, and I felt like you were saying the same thing. You're like, hey, it doesn't really work out quite like you imagined. So talk about that just a little bit, because that's very disappointing.
The person that typically is mowing yards is disgusted by poop.
Yeah.
Many people are disgusted. I mean, of course, it's poop, but there's different levels of being disgusted by it. I'm disgusted by it because it's gross, but I can deal with it.
Yeah.
But there's people that are like,
repulsed.
That's why we're in business. I mean,
Yeah.
there's dog owners that are repulsed by it, but there's all the general person mowing yards, in my experience, is repulsed by it. It's not that they want nothing to do with it. And so yes, we found and experienced the same thing. It's hard to find those mow crews to do it. You also actually, I think, talked about it in a recent video about how you guys at City Turf focus those mow crews because it is so hard to find people that are willing to mow yards, especially residential push mowing yards. It's so hard to find people to do that in a good, qualified way with a system and process behind it. You want them only focused on that. You don't even want them to worry about having to, if I remember your video correctly, you don't even want them worried about sharpening blades.
I believe this in most every area of the business.
Exactly, and so this goes into that.
Okay.
Obviously, you're going to have a mow crew do weed eating and edging, but the moment you start adding bed weeding, in a perfect world, we've been in the mowing, we'll get into the mowing a little bit, but in a perfect world, the guy mowing the yard would also weed the beds. Have we ever been able to figure out how that actually successfully works? I haven't.
It's actually been more profitable not to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's similar with poop scooping.
Yeah, okay. That's very good. And what about things like insurance?
Auto insurance.
Do you need insurance?
Yes,
Auto,
you
of
do.
course. Okay,
interesting
auto's
enough, 2011, 2012 is we're like, we need to get general liability insurance on our poop scooping business. And we had general liability on our lawn and landscaping business. And I think at the time, and even now, it's through State Farm. We've had a long, good relationship, ironically, with State Farm, because a lot of people would think that's residential, but they've worked well for us for general liability and for auto policies. And we've used who you guys use, we've used others, but we've always found ourselves back. I say all that to say they didn't know in 2011, 2012, we couldn't get them to even understand that this was a business. They actually tried writing personal umbrella policies on us because they couldn't understand that we were telling them we wanted a general liability policy for poop scooping. So it took a minute. Fast forward, it's low, it's very, very inexpensive. An individual, I would estimate, is not going to pay even $1,000 a year, an individual starting their business. What is your general liability actually covering is also another question. Yeah. What is it actually
Have you ever had
covering?
a claim?
No.
Yeah, I don't even know what the claim would be.
I don't even what would you claim? You can't, there's some really catastrophic things that can go wrong in a poop scooping business. You leave a gate open, a dog gets out, something happens. That's not general liability though. That's not.
Yeah.
And so what does it actually cover? That's always a challenge, but you gotta have it. You gotta, in case some freak thing happens and, I don't know, piece of poop sparks and burns down the house, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm totally making something up, but.
Speaking of that, what about dog risk? So you're hiring team members, they're going in the backyard with animals.
So we're talking about the threats. You think about a SWAT here, these are the threats. I'll stick with auto insurance real quick. Auto insurance is something that you got to watch for, and especially in a climate right now where auto insurance is going through the roof.
Yep.
You figure you need a lot of vehicle. You need a vehicle for every $150,000.
One guy in a truck, right?
One guy in a truck. Yep. A lot like mowing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of trucks to produce, oftentimes not what's would be perceived as a ton of revenue.
Yeah.
So with auto insurance, that makes a huge issue. What was the other?
I'm curious what you start talking about the risk. So is there, what about protecting against, and have you had many encounters where your team members are being bit by a dog or things
This
of that
is an
sort?
example. So you start for under $100, you're just hustling, just like we started, and just like you can start mowing lawns the same way at any age. 12 years old, you can start. At that age, as long as you better not be afraid of dogs, and you better have some confidence around dogs. That makes a huge difference. And know how to work yourself. As somebody getting into this industry, that's probably something you want to probably be pretty decent at. Where you have to start worrying about that is when you start to build your business, where you start to scale. And of course, that's also something with franchising where we've got enormous amounts of experience in dog bites and how to deal with dogs. Now, I think we also have areas where we can grow to serve our franchisees in further training for dog being aware of dog temperaments and knowing when and how to handle certain situations. This is an area that we as a franchisor actually do consistently look to support our franchisees. But yeah, you gotta be mindful of it. And when you're hiring people to do the work and when you're doing it yourself, you've got to be mindful. Like we were just talking with a competitor last week, Josh Cahill, my business partner, was talking about this, how we train our technicians to rattle the equipment that they've got, kind of make noise as they're opening the gate, so do a quick whistle so that the dog's back there, and yes, they come around so you're not surprising them. But even doing all that, sometimes homeowners just accidentally let the dog out and don't even know we're there.
Okay.
And that has happened. And there is definitely stories and even video footage of people jumping fences and hiding behind trees. And I mean, there's a lot of funny stories.
Okay.
Luckily, we've never had anything overly dramatic happen. Some dog bites, yes.
So I assume in some markets, depending on the state and what the requirements are, some are carrying workers' comp.
All are working.
Okay, all are doing
So
workers' comp.
We require.
Is that pretty affordable in this market? Like tree care, it's
tree care is
expensive.
outrageous.
Yeah,
So
but is it, how is
Chorby's
it
in the
this
process
space?
of getting out of tree partially because
Yeah.
of that. It's comparable to a mowing business.
Okay.
It's comparable to your lower risk green industry. It's going to be comparable to that.
Okay.
If Jeremy, I mentioned Jeremy earlier, he's the guy who takes care of that. He'd probably be able to geek out about all the details in that. But in a nutshell, it's very comparable to mowing.
All right. How do I figure out pricing? So I'm starting a business. How do we set pricing?
Well, you know more about this than I do, and it's really the same regardless of what business you're in.
Yeah.
You've spoken extensively on it, but at the end of the day, what is your time worth? I'll start with, I'll do it in the perspective of somebody who's starting for $100 or less. And what my dad told me when I was 13 years old and mowing yards, and he says, well, if you can get $25 for a yard. You look at the marketplace. You to start, you got to start somewhere. So everybody says, well, don't look at your competitors, and that's true. I have no clue what City Turf's pricing is. We shop you only about once every 2 years, just to see.
Didn't
But
you
other
used to
than that,
use me or something
I
like that?
actually did. I hired you
Yeah.
to shop to see what how my competition stacked
Yeah,
up. I got to make sure we're staying on par or getting better.
Yeah.
I digress. What was I just talking about?
Pricing. How
Pricing.
do I figure out my pricing? I'm starting a business.
Yeah,
I have no
my
idea
dad
what
taught
to
me this
charge.
from day one. Yes, you're going to look at your competitor, but you also to get an idea. But then you also look at what is your time worth. If you're by yourself starting solo, what's your time worth? How much do you want to make per hour? If you want to make $50 an hour, that is possible. You need to scoop 2 homes an hour for $25. They need to be able to be close enough. So your pricing is going to be determined on how broad, how a lot of your specific situation. In a nutshell, I would price the general market is between $15 and $30 a week, and that depends on the
dog,
number.
for 2 dogs.
Depends on the number of dogs. Depends on first time scoop. What is most common in the industry is charging more for multiple dogs.
Okay.
We have never charged more. We've charged the same price for 1 to 4 dogs.
Oh, really?
1 to 4 dogs is the same price. It simplifies things.
Okay.
It goes back to that simplification. Imagine you've got 100 customers. You got 100 poop scooping customers, and you're trying to track all 100 customers and how many dogs they have. And
Makes sense.
when they get rid of a dog or when they get a new dog, and you're having to figure out and track that, it becomes a bureaucracy in its own. And you're only getting a couple dollars. They're charging a couple more dollars per dog.
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm seeing the industry very much so move more in that direction.
Okay.
Where they're charging, they're not charging extra for every dog. I am starting to see that, but it's slow. A lot of people charge extra for multiple dogs.
I don't know what we pay you to do this at our house.
You have 2 dogs, right?
I do.
And you're right here, so you're at $19.99.
Okay.
And we're in the process in the next 6 months. That'll be, I think, $22.99, maybe
Okay.
$21.99. We're in the process of doing a price increase. It's been about 1.5 years since we did our last
Okay.
one.
I might have to cancel.
I
But
doubt it.
I might. I'm sure I can find a better company.
I doubt that. Ha ha.
Anyway.
I doubt that. And actually, though, no, you're getting twice a week or once a week?
Once. Yeah, I got a French Bulldog and an English Bulldog there.
Yeah.
And
In all seriousness,
Yeah.
the service has been good.
Yeah, you guys have done.
Tiffany's
I don't even pay
been
attention.
happy?
Yeah, that's really what counts, and
Yeah.
she's never complained.
Good.
Yeah, she did have. So Gage, my youngest one, he got a boxer, and he's back at college. But he got a boxer, and the boxer was at our house for a couple weeks. She's like,
Right.
"Do we need to call them and tell them we got their dogs?" Like,
So imagine,
no,
but
that's
imagine
stupid.
a huge
but-
chunk of the industry. That's exactly what you'd need to do.
Yeah,
and
and
they're like looking around for
Yeah.
it, and that's not something I'd
I'm
recommend.
like, they'll be fine.
I wouldn't
It's only going
recommend
to be here a couple weeks.
Right.
So I had just assumed you were charging per dog.
No.
I've
That's
never-
unique. That's very unique to Scoop Soldiers, but like I say, it's starting to take hold.
Okay. I've never gone out there and watched the guys. I have no idea what they do. Don't you guys go around spray something as well, or is that a thing?
If you're paying for it. So there's
Oh, okay.
2 add-on services
Okay.
that we have. One is deodorizer, which is literally just like this solution. I forget what it is. Josh used to know all these details.
Okay.
I'm bad at them, but you pick up the waste and you spray it right there.
What's the pitch on that?
Essentially, that's taking away the stink.
Okay,
that's
so it's
still left
predominantly
behind.
about smell. Oh,
it's
deodorizer.
predominantly about
Yeah.
smell. It's
Okay.
not something that is like,
No sanitization.
it's
or
not
anything.
that.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what we have separate from that is a sanitization service. And
Okay.
that's like a hose plug-in, and it's like a chlorine type tablet that's in this hose plug-in. And we have our own hose, and we come in with a little bucket and the hose and plug it in. And it's like a $60 service. It's not an inexpensive service, and it's something you would usually do. Like, I think I have it set up at my house monthly.
Okay.
But it's where we literally hose down the yard and even the concrete spaces or whatever. And it's safe for the yard, it's safe for plants, it's safe for animals. It's actually used a lot in vet clinics and kennels for cleaning out those types of things. Because it's got a very slight bleach. It's got some bleach in it, but it's very mild. So the product is called Wizzy Wash. Like, you can literally buy it yourself.
Do you get the concrete areas as well?
We do.
Okay. Yeah, because my French Bulldog thinks he's going in the grass, but he just puts his
And
paws in the grass.
that's where Wizzy Wash. I get mine. I actually said I get mine done once a month. I've actually now started getting mine done every 2 weeks now, now that I think about it.
Okay, so we talked about add-ons, we talked about pricing. Now my business is growing. I'm ready to hire my first team member. How do I go find somebody? What's your typical process?
Our go-to tends to be the same as kind of the green industry. Within our networks, Indeed tends to work for us on a national level. Actually, we use Indeed. At one point, we were spending $10,000 a month on Indeed just to hire poop technicians across the country. We've been able to decrease that tremendously, but Indeed's been our friend.
Okay, that's a great tip.
And yeah, as far as hiring somebody though, like, that's where the name of the game comes. You can make a good living in this business if you're just a solo operator.
Yeah.
You can make an even better living in this business with 2 or 3 people. But when you really want to scale it, that's where the game changes. It's not about scooping poop anymore. It's about leading people who scoop poop.
Yep.
And it is like the mowing business and like the lawn and landscaping industry, it is very heavy and reliant on manpower.
Yeah.
And it is hard to find people to do the work, just like mowing. Totally different, usually, person.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Somebody who's scooping would never consider mowing in most cases,
What do you
and vice versa.
think is, I don't know that you could actually answer this question, but what's kind of a typical profession thing they were doing before they joined you guys?
Dog lovers.
Okay.
We look for dog lovers. It doesn't have to be that.
Yep.
Other physical labor, other skilled trades. I was just telling a potential franchisee this yesterday at lunch. My avatar person to hire, especially when you're growing, you got 3, 5, 10 people in your network, in your organization, is to hire guys and gals who have worked skilled trade jobs, welders, lawn and landscaping, tree trimming, but they're mature enough and they've been in the industries long enough to understand the value of ongoing service, the value of a single route that rarely changes, that's 52 weeks out of the year. It's not even seasonal like mowing is in most parts of the country. It is 52 weeks out of the year outside of
Which is awesome.
snowing, and so that's incredible. And so somebody who's 40 years old, I'll use 40, I'm 40, somebody who's 40 years old, who's been a welder and who's worked in these blue collar roles but understands the feast and famine nature of it, they're gonna really appreciate this role because it is just steady. 52 weeks out of the year, 52 weeks out of the year. It doesn't lend itself to people that have to be able to call in, have family matters a lot of times, and have to deal with unexpected family issues, or it doesn't work well with that because you've got a route, and Monday through Friday you're expected, it's got to be done. So the jobs have to be done. You can't skip a week or
What do you do in rain?
scoop.
No problem, doesn't create an issue.
Hurricanes. We don't scoop in hurricanes.
Okay.
At least not most of the time. Josh, I've mentioned Josh a few times here. Josh has actually scooped nearly in hurricanes because we needed to get that poop picked up. Snow markets are very much so a different market.
Okay.
Different in the sense that, you look at Denver, there are weeks that you can't get to anything.
And do you bill just 52 weeks a year, or do you only bill when you show up?
Great question. Well, we being Texans, what the Coloradans call us as Flatlanders, or not being snow, in Denver, when we went to Denver for the first couple of years we were in Denver, we didn't charge. We charge weekly. We bill the day after service, just like mowing, just like you taught me.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer. I can't reiterate that enough. But what we learned was that a lot of the competition in the Denver and in the snow markets, they charge because they have to come no matter what, and a lot of the industry charges monthly still. And so
Okay.
they're charging anyways, like a subscription for monthly. And so we realized we have to pick the poop up, even if we can't come
That's
that
true.
week.
Right.
So we got to come the next week, and it's still there.
So you still.
So starting about this time last year, in the last year, snow in Denver in our snow markets, we actually did start charging whether we come or not.
So you just hit the cart every week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had some turnover in that. We had a much higher turnover in Denver in the last 12 months because of that. Kind of going back to your question about could you haul it off and what would that do for our business?
Yep.
Oh, and just like starting to charge for in the snow market, we had a noticeable turnover because our clients were used to not having to pay that. And it's not like the mowing where they had been on a service in the past, and so they kind of knew that this was a thing. No, we introduced them to it. So as far as they're concerned, this has never been a thing, and now it is.
I see.
So we had a higher turnover. But again, I don't think that'll happen next year.
What didn't I ask you that comes to mind regarding starting the business? Is there anything else that's really important to know?
We talked about the people. As
Yep.
you start to grow, that becomes a huge need. And if you don't know you can be the best poop scooper in the world and the best at getting clients, but if you can't take care of people,
Yep.
your people,
This is the story of business in general.
it
right
is
here.
the story
Yeah.
of business in general, and of course, the more labor intensive the business is, and that's all this business is you are literally trading hours, you're trading dollars for time, you're buying people's time back, so it's a labor game.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that, but the other piece that we didn't talk about is fleet management.
Okay.
Again, as you start to grow, you can be the best poop scooper in the world, you can be the most friendly and easygoing boss and have low turnover, but you've also got to manage a fleet. So it's people, it's the poop scooping itself and getting that business, but then it's also your equipment management. You still do have equipment. You don't have lawnmowers, but you
Okay.
still have trucks.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure you take care of your fleet. And usually a poop scooping truck is putting a lot more miles on it. An average mowing truck for us or a FERT truck for us puts 12,000 miles a year on it. I bet you that's similar to y'all.
No idea.
Philip would know, but I
Yes,
understand
they would know.
you're
They would know without question, down to the detail, but I don't know.
But on the Scoop Soldier side, it's double that. Give or
Really?
take, yeah.
Because you're serving a bigger market because...
Well, and keep in mind, yeah, we did it too, where we were in a huge market.
Yeah.
But even still, yeah, you tend to be driving more because you're in your truck more.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I would imagine if I look down on I always think about Google Maps. I look down the map and I say, okay, there's 50 homes on the street. How many homes are a buyer of whatever service I want to have? Let's say in a good market, 50% of the homes, 25 of 50 homes will buy mowing. But what number might buy poop scooping? It's probably a lower
Way
number because
lower.
they don't know about the service.
they don't know. Dog owners.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah,
just
yeah.
aren't dog
Filters out a
owners.
bunch of
Everybody's
people.
got
Yeah.
grass. That's the beauty
Yeah.
in the mowing business. But yeah.
So then that naturally means you've got to do more driving to build
Correct.
a route.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else big that comes to mind that?
We didn't
should
really
know.
touch on marketing other than if you're starting with less than $100, you
Yeah.
technically
You
don't
gotta
have
knock
to
doors.
market. You got to knock on doors.
Yeah.
You got to hustle that. And we have seen huge improvements in our own business with our franchisees. The franchisees that are hustling like that, they are growing.
Yeah.
And the franchisees that are more so letting digital marketing, so we didn't talk about that, but digital marketing, and they're a little more passive on how they're marketing, they tend to be growing a little slower.
Makes perfect
They're
sense.
still growing.
So if you were to stack rank maybe the top 3 or 4 things at work, putting door knocking at the top, what are the next items?
Well, and I say door
marketing?
knocking because it's it's free.
And you can do it tomorrow.
So it's that you can do it for free tomorrow, and it costs you
and
nothing.
such a great skill because if you door knock and you hear the objections, that informs how you write your
Yes.
copy for your marketing in the future to overcome the objection. It tells you everything you need to know for other types of
Not to
marketing.
mention, it makes you good at the elevator pitch of your
Yeah,
business.
you get
which-
good at selling on the phone, the whole deal.
So that's just a good practice, and it's free.
Yeah.
If you have the time, especially. But we didn't talk, and others are obviously. There is an element of social media and Google, and that is an ever-changing target, constantly changing. We rode a wave from 2011 to 2020 where it was all organic for us, almost all organic.
Moved away from AdWords.
We didn't use our AdWords until 2017.
Oh, okay.
We were already in 4 or 5 states and 6 or 7 markets before we started even having to spend money on AdWords because we rode the wave of search engine optimization.
Okay.
Similar to the way CityTurf grew, I would estimate
back in
from
the day.
2008 to 2014, that growth period y'all had from just
100%.
dominance in organic SEO. We rode that same wave in the pet waste industry, and that's what allowed us to expand originally.
Okay, and that's true in all the markets around the U.S. that you expanded to. You did the same thing.
In all of them up to 2017, we didn't have to spend anything except search engine, organic search engine. Now we had spent $100,000 buying. You remember that story? Maybe a little vaguely. We had spent $100,000 buying a license to be able to do it at an inexpensive cost.
Yeah.
But other than that, I digress.
Yeah.
In general, you want to get on social media.
Yep.
And yes, if you've got a budget, Google AdWords obviously works. But what I've realized the last couple of years is, like everywhere else in every other industry, that has gotten really
So
expensive. And in this industry, I feel like, and I've talked about this not extensively enough and not in a way that people can understand enough, but I feel like because of COVID, because of stuff like this, there is a lot of people that have entered the industry from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but they're all going after the industry in a way that's like, well, everybody already knows of this industry. I just have to go in digital and market digitally, but they don't.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that paid, even though we still do it, we spend money on Google. I believe that what needs to happen within the industry for everybody is that you've got to go, again, figuratively and literally knock on doors. Let people know about the industry. Put wraps on your trucks. That's another big one, by the way. It took us a few years to get them all wrapped. It was 2016, I think, before we got them all wrapped. But because you've got to get people entering the industry so that they then do, whether it's tomorrow or 6 months from now, they go to Google and they Google pooper scooper service or pet waste removal service because they saw that wrap that day and 6 months ago, and now they're looking at their backyard and their new puppies dog poop all over the place. There's got to be more industry awareness. And so that would be the last point I'd make is if you're entering this industry in any capacity or even in this industry, you've got to let everybody you know, get the biggest microphone you can get to let dog owners know, because I believe that 10 to only 20, we'll use the 80-20 rule, 20% of dog owners know that this industry exists.
Yeah.
There's 65 million dog owners.
To everything you just said, that's the exact strategy I see you guys using. You're making all this funny, humorous, entertaining social media stuff, which is a really smart approach. And we haven't really talked about why you're doing it. I mean, I understood why you're doing it, but it makes sense that that's probably the number one strategy. You've got to educate the market and build the market.
Yes, we've got to educate the market. We got to build the market. We obviously are looking for partners in we're covering a big chunk of the United States. We're coast to coast, but there's an enormous part of the Northwest that we're corporate in. We don't have franchise partners. There's the Midwest and there's the Northeast that we're still looking for franchise partners. I would love to find one or two specific partners in the Northeast that maybe already have a lawn and landscaping business, and they're looking to add this on. But obviously you see the benefits in franchising. You've got an enormous, our command center, for instance, handles all of the office stuff. They don't have to have an office, and so there's huge value in partnering with us to grow the brand and to grow their business. But I think it's a huge add-on to be able to buy a franchise, like you were talking about earlier. You've got Christmas light add-ons that are franchise opportunities. I could see that very much so being Scoop Soldiers in our future. So that's part of what Pet Waste Millionaire is doing. But we also want to make acquisitions. We want to find guys that have 100 clients that have decided this isn't their thing. Maybe they have 250 customers and they grew too big. We just made an acquisition in Seattle, and we didn't buy their whole company, but they grew bigger than they ever planned to, and they were just looking to sell off a portion of it to make their routes denser. And so we're looking to make acquisitions, and that's part of what Pet Waste Millionaire is all about. So it's franchise development and finding partners, new franchisees. It's about making acquisitions, both for our franchisees, but also for us corporately, because we want to grow. What was the last one? My ADD got me. The last one, I haven't said it yet. It was in my head and I lost it. No, the last is what I did.
I thought you were doing a summary here.
I'm trying to, but it's not very good. What was the third one? Franchisee support. Supporting the people that have already invested in our brand and that are working to build their individual local businesses.
All right.
Duh.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Very
you,
helpful
Jonathan.
information. Thanks
Very
a lot,
grateful
man.
for all that you've done for me.
You bet, of course.
Thanks, sir.